You don't need to tell an amazing, oddball, wild story to have a great story. You just have to learn how to tell the story, and then you make it relatable in a way. And also you're showing change. A great story shows a change. People don't buy with logic. They buy with emotion. There's something about the brand that's attaching to their psyche or the way that they are. And then after you make a decision on emotion, then you validate it with logic. Go, oh yeah, well, of course, I bought it because of A, B, and C.
That's Alex Neist. He's the founder and CEO of the best-selling mouth tape brand Hostage Tape. His company has helped over 200,000 customers worldwide, and he's going to share some of his storytelling principles behind the brand's success. And you'll learn 1, why brands like Hostage Tape and Liquid Death resonate. 2, the defining element of an inspiring story. And 3, the downside of making your story amazing. And if you'd like a summary write-up of some of these actionable takeaways, I recommend you sign up for the free Gold Nugget email list at awesomeatyourjob.com. I'm Pete Mockaitis. This is How to Be Awesome at Your Job. And now, here's Alex. Alex, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Oh, it's great to be chatting with you. And I will tell you, I am a Hostage Tape customer and lover.
Yes.
So first things first, for the uninitiated, what the heck is Hostage Tape?
Hostage tape is mouth tape. Okay, quite simply. And for those who have never heard of mouth taping before, what it does is it forces you to keep your mouth shut so that you breathe through your nose. It sounds absolutely wild and crazy, I know, but I promise you're not going to suffocate. We were made to breathe through our nose, and it seems to be something that we've just lost over the last 20, 30, 40 years, especially with a lot of changes to our diets, what we're eating, all sorts of things that have kind of changed us. And over 70% of people in this country are mouth breathing at night when they sleep, and we shouldn't be. And so mouth tape, shut your mouth, forces us to nasal breathe the way that we were made to. And it does a whole host of things. We get more oxygen. We wake up feeling better, don't have mind fog. We don't annoy the heck out of our partner. And just everything opens up and you feel like you're 20 years old again. You feel like you found the cheat code. This is how I explain it. It's like when we were younger, you played Nintendo and you had that Konami code, up, down, left, right, BA, start. It's like you found the cheat code from Nintendo, but for life, right? And now you feel like you're 20 years old again.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, Alex, I love so much of what you're saying here. And it's funny, we've had sleep doctors on the show, and this is actually not really a sleep episode, although that's a freebie, huh? We're getting some bonus goodies here, Alex. I've read in the research, because I'm such a dork for this, that mouth taping is particularly excellent for individuals with mild sleep apnea. And I was such an individual, and I was not feeling the CPAP machine.
Yeah.
But I needed a little something. I need a little something, Alex. And, the mouth taping and some other interventions combined did the trick. So I'm off the CPAP machine and I'm having great sleep, and I'm a fan.
So what you're describing right now, Pete, is a pretty common thing where, again, I'm not a doctor. Ironically, I grew up in a doctor's family. Like my dad was a doctor, so I come from that whole world of medicine, but I'm not a doctor. And I think CPAPs are over-prescribed to people, because I think the reality is it's from what I've seen with all of our customers is that there's a certain person that definitely needs it. And those are the people who are like severely overweight. Guys who are really overweight, who've got excess weight in their neck and everything that's pushing down, they definitely need help. But I think for like the average guy who's not overweight, man, it's as simple as just keeping your mouth shut, right? Assuming you can breathe out of your nose and it's not like severely impacted. It's just keeping your mouth shut and breathing through your nose. And we don't need a CPAP for that. We really don't. And
I hear you.
The amount of people who have used a CPAP and then now they don't because they wear hostage tape, countless. But there's also people who they'll use their CPAP and the hostage tape helps it work better because it keeps their mouth shut so that there's no air leak.
That's true, especially like a nasal only CPAP. But we're getting into the details. And if folks have sleep apnea who are not overweight, I just want to give you a shout out. I know that also happens with anatomical things, neurological things in the mix as well. But yes, great sleep is important. We've covered that with a few sleep docs before, and we'll just check that box, and mouth taping might help. I want to talk about branding and
Yes.
storytelling because Alex, you've done a heck of a job. I remember my favorite CPAP influencer, and there are many, will be Uncle Nico from sleephq.com. And he said it very well about you guys. He was like, great job, guys. You made mouth taping cool. He's Australian. Apologies for the poor accent impersonation. And it's true. And it's so interesting in terms of brand. I have so many questions, but why don't we start by tell us the tale. What made you think, let's call this thing hostage tape was a good move?
Yes. So here's the story. So I actually went through a low point in my life and I hit rock bottom. And it was at this point of hitting rock bottom where my wife and I were actually separated and we divorced. And so I was living in another house at the time. And when you go through a divorce, it's messy, it's crazy, assets freeze, it's, all that kind of wonderful stuff that happens. But I was in my aunt's house. I was living in her basement at the time. Okay. And I said to myself, okay, I need to really work on myself. How do I become a better man, a better father, a better leader, right? A better business owner, all those things. And I call it my Jocko moment of extreme accountability. I need to take extreme accountability for me and work on everything that I can control. And I started with my health, specifically my sleep, because I snored so bad for so many years that it pushed my wife out of the bedroom, right? And I explain it like this. It's kind of like Indiana Jones running out of the temple, right? You got this boulder coming after you. And at some point, it catches up to you, overtakes you, and then you don't know what to do, right? Because snoring is one of those things where it causes all these issues. It's like an accelerant. All these other things that happen that just kind of get out of control. And then before you realize it, it's out of control and you just can't fix it and can't get it back. And so that's what had happened. And so then I looked at my sleep and I went, okay, what do I got to do to fix my sleep? And went down this rabbit hole of mouth tape, of all things. And when I started the mouth tape, whenever my kids would be over, I would say, okay, guys, kids, if you bust into the room and you see me, it's going to look like I'm being held hostage. So don't freak out. Okay. Because anybody that you sees mouth taping, it looks really, really strange, really weird. And so there was that part of it. And at the time, I didn't know that I was going to start a mouth tape brand just yet, let alone call it hostage tape. But then I realized that, wait a minute, there's this double-sided coin to this here. Yes, you look like a hostage when you've got tape on your mouth, but we're actually tapping into this core emotion people feel. People feel held hostage by poor sleep or their partner, and they don't know what to do. So don't let bad sleep hold you hostage. That became the idea. And I was most importantly inspired by my favorite water, Liquid Death.
I was literally talking to your publicist
Yes.
about Liquid Death and branding.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I explain this to many people. And a lot of times when we meet with retailers or anybody else that's interested in the brand or, in some way, I say, we are the Liquid Death of the sleep space. And they go, oh, okay, I get it. Because inevitably there's always somebody that goes, wait a minute, why would you call it that? That's really polarizing. And then I say Liquid Death and they go, oh, okay, I get it. Right. So it takes like a giant, like what Mike did with Liquid Death for people to truly understand, oh, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I knew in this day and age, Pete, it's all about attention. Right. And I saw a quote the other day that when you think about products, things that people buy, right? Mouth taping, it's not a fad. It's not one of those fads that's like here and then gone tomorrow, because it's based on fundamental core principles of our body and it's solving a clear problem. So it's not a fad. And it's gaining awareness right now. With the amount of money that we've spent on marketing, more and more people are gaining awareness of it. You're seeing it on TikTok because we've had other copycats try to do what we're doing. And more people are going, mouth taping. I keep seeing this. I keep seeing hostage tape everywhere. So because that awareness is growing, what happens, it's like kind of like the 95-5 rule, right? 5% of your people are in market to buy. The other 95% are not. But for those 95% of people, when they are in market to buy, what do? They buy the brand that they remember. And who are they going to remember when it comes to, oh yeah, I keep seeing mouth tape. You know what? I'm going to try that. I'm going to buy hostage tape. Because when you see hostage tape come across your feed, you never forget it, ever. I've never met somebody that didn't go, oh, hostage tape. Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's
brand.
black and it can look a little scary and it's intriguing. When you say polarizing, I think I want to dig into that for a bit. Like, I remember I was telling my cousin Carrie that I was doing some mouth taping, and I was like, yeah, I love my hostage tape. He said, wait, it's actually called hostage tape? Wow. They're really leaning into it. And it's like, yeah, well said. They are really leaning into it. And I think that it's so intriguing because you say polarizing, and that's the word, because I think some might say, Alex, hostages are no cheeky, fun, laughing matter. Right now, there are hostage situations in the world, and it almost seems like you're kind of poking fun at it a little bit. And so help me out with polarizing, because I don't know if you've ever gotten furious messages or if that's just me being...
Oh, we get it all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, we get people all the time. In fact, somebody DM'd me on LinkedIn the other day who said exactly that. And I think you have to look at it like this. Like, the wonderful thing about language is that context matters. We have all these words, we have all these amazing ways to use language, and context matters. Right? Intent matters. So when I use a word like hostage tape, look at the intent, look at the context. It's not poking fun at those awful situations, right? Just like liquid death. How many people die and get murdered? Like a ton of people. Liquid death, murder your thirst. Like they're just as bad, if not worse than we are with this term death and murder. But when you look at what they are, who they stand for, and the authenticity behind it, look at the authenticity behind our brand and why I started it. I'm not just some no-name, no-face like brand that said, we're going to poke fun at this. I'm a real guy. You do a little bit of research and you see me everywhere. You see me talking about it. You see me telling my story about feeling held hostage. And then once you explain that little bit of the term hostage, everybody relates to it. Then that's the genius behind it, is that everybody can relate to feeling like a hostage from their partner or their sleep, and they feel helpless. So that's why it's so good, is, again, context and the intent behind it.
Mm-hmm. And it's intriguing. I was listening to an interview with the Liquid Death guy.
Mike.
What's his name again? All right. And it was really interesting. He said, well, you know, our water, it's in a nice aluminum can and it's tall and it's from a natural spring. So there are some kind of objective material elements of it that make it seem quality relative to alternative packaged waters. He said, and yet the bulk of the price premium for it is just for the brand, the associations, the experiences, the hilarious marketing that is attached to it. And it was really interesting. He got me thinking hard. He said that's kind of how I define brand, is it has a value for its associations. I might be using my own words here, but it has a value for associations in your brain above and beyond the actual matter inside the package.
You want to know why?
Lay it on us.
Because people don't buy with logic. They buy with emotion. That's why. So what people do, the way that our brains work, is anytime we make decisions on buying things, especially if it's not something that costs thousands and thousands of dollars, that's a little bit of a different decision process. But something as small as mouth tape, liquid death, whatever, we might buy on emotion. We do buy on emotion for the most part because we're connecting to something about it. And with a brand like Liquid Death and a brand like Hostage Tape, people are buying on emotion, right? There's something about the brand that's attaching to their psyche or the way that they are. And then after you make a decision on emotion, then you validate it with logic. Go, oh yeah, well, of course, I bought it because of A, B, and C, right? And so that's, I think, what Mike's really talking about there with Liquid Death, is that you're creating this emotional connection with people and that's what makes a strong brand.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I say before I had encountered hostage tape, I was using some 3M micropore tape. And that kind of works for keeping your mouth closed, but it doesn't stick as well. It's not as comfortable. It's hard to get just the right size. So these problems are relatively minor, but I will hand it to you. You solved all of them. It's like, this is more comfortable. It's quicker. It adheres better. It even has just a little bit of a holes or perforations or whatever. So it's like,
yeah, because it's a fabric. It's completely breathable, right? It's not
breathable.
And that's what people think when they think hostage tape, mouth tape. They're like, they think it's like duct tape, but in actuality, it's a flexible fabric. You can breathe through it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So it's interesting in that your product costs more than generic micropore tape, and it has some performance characteristics that are superior, but there's also all this emotional stuff. I just find it fascinating how that works, because I don't think I'm very good at branding, both in terms of when I market stuff and when I buy stuff. I think it's like, oh, this costs 10 times as much. Is it 10 times as awesome? Well, maybe, yeah, in terms of like when I'm sleepy and I don't want to be fiddling with my tape for an extra 30 seconds, I value that substantially. But again, maybe I'm just doing that post-emotion rationalization you were speaking of in the moment.
Well, think about it like this too, right? So when I built the brand, I had that dilemma that everybody has when you start a new business. You go, wait a minute, is there a business here? Could I actually build something that's worth my time and money to put into this? Because it's just tape. Like, it's a commodity. Is there a moat here? Can I actually build this? And then it was looking at Liquid Death. In fact, it was Liquid Death, but it was also, so Moise Ali is famous for the native deodorant founder. Okay. And I'll never forget, he was talking about when you go down the aisles of Target and you look at a wall of, let's just say, white of a product, there's an opportunity there. There's an opportunity because the TAM is there to create a product that stands out, that's different. And that logic to me went, okay. Now, granted, there wasn't really a market for mouth tape, but there's tons of tape, right? So I knew I could take something and I could improve upon it. And guess what? There's 70% of people in this country that have this problem. So it was a very clear problem solution. And I had experienced it that I went, this is too big. This is too big not to be able to build something, but it all hinges on brand. So I knew, point I'm getting at was I knew that nothing about micropore tape, 3M tape, inspires you to go down to Walmart, Walgreens, Target, or even on Amazon and buy mouth tape. It doesn't inspire you at all, right? Because that's not really how we all make the decision to begin with, like at least consciously. Subconscious.
Yeah, you got to be desperate. Like, I need something and I'm out. I guess I'll go. Not like I'm excited or inspired.
Well, and mouth tape to begin with, right? Because it's so weird and new and different. You're not going to see an ad for 3M micropore tape and think, you know what? I should use that and put it on my mouth. And even if it was advertised, you would think like, well, that's just weird. That's not cool. I don't want to do that. That sounds dumb. But then you see this like really cool story that's relatable that you go, oh, I'm going through that same problem too. My wife's sleeping in the other bedroom. You mean to tell me he solved it by taping his mouth shut? Oh man. Well, that's kind of weird, right? Well, but that looks actually kind of cool. I like it. Okay. And then you start connecting the dots, connecting all these emotional barriers. And then boom, you're now inspired to go online and order hostage tape because it's cool. Makes you feel cool. It makes you feel like you're actually solving a problem, which you are, right? And you don't feel weird because you're putting medical tape on your face.
And when you said, when you go walk down Target and see white, do we literally mean the color white? What do we mean by you see white?
So it could be anything. It could be
like a gap or blankness.
let's use like deodorant, right? As an example. Like you might go down a section in Target where it's just the deodorant aisle and they all look the same. That's the point. If that category exists and they all look the same, that means the TAM is big enough, the opportunity is big enough,
Total addressable market.
and you have a chance to stand out, to create. It's like Dr. Squatch is another really good example. Dr. Squatch said, we're going to take soap, which is like, there's behemoths, huge behemoths in soap, and it's just soap, right? But that guy took it and went, I'm going to make it different, all natural, but I'm going to create this amazing brand around it. And now look at them, they're huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. Well, so now I'd love it if you could bring it into the realm of the average professional. So, all right, we're not inventing brands, new products, but we are, seeing opportunities and certainly having to make a case, build a story, conjure up some emotion for support of initiatives and whatnot. So tell us, how do we apply some of these perspectives to our everyday conversations and persuasions?
The first thing that pops into my mind that we could riff off of is when people are thinking that they want to start a business and they want to build something, they always ask, well, how do I start? Where do I start? And I always tell people, look, the best place to start is like solve a problem, number one. And then when you solve that problem and you figure out what that business is, then there's a story around it that then you have to learn how to tell the story, right, for that particular product and business, and then tell it in a way that's relatable. And I'll be honest, I launched this business, Hostage Tape, 3 years ago. And it's taken me 3 years to craft the story in a way that's relatable for people. Very early on, I would tell the story and I don't think it was relatable enough. And I kept telling it. And then I keep hearing it and I'm like, who can relate to that? Like, yes, there's elements of like shock and amazement that are interesting. But at the end of the day, people aren't going to buy into something that they can't relate to and see themselves somehow looking back at them. And so I've morphed how I tell the story in a way that how do I bring out the right pieces of the story that are relatable to people? So I keep evolving it in a way that is not so grandiose. In fact, you probably know the guy that I love is Matthew Dix. He has a book on storytelling. And this dude, he wins all these awards for these competitions he goes to where he tells a story. And one of the things he talks about in storytelling is you don't need to tell an amazing, oddball, wild story to have a great story. Most of the time, it's a story about the most simplest thing that happened to you in your day that most people are going to think, well, that's not interesting. But it actually is interesting. You just have to learn how to tell the story and then you make it relatable in a way. And also you're showing change, right? A great story shows a change. At one point I was this, then this happened, and now this. And so that's another key there with that storytelling that you're talking about, right? Is that so many things happen to people during the day that you can tell stories on rather than just reciting back, well, this happened. Well, that's boring. Like just reciting back anecdotally what happened to me today. It's telling it in a way that says, I changed or something changed. That's what captures people's attention. It's like when I tell the mouth tape story, I like to tell the story about how before mouth taping, I was this. And then that first night I mouth taped, then I woke up and my whole life changed in that moment. And I knew that now I was going to be a different person. I was going to be able to get to hear just from that one night of mouth taping. And for anybody listening to that who can relate to having bad sleep goes, wow, that's crazy. I can resonate with that because I feel the same way. I felt the same way. And maybe if I just put a piece of tape on my mouth and shut my mouth, I can feel the same way too.
Well, I mean, I'm a believer in sleep, so it does not strike me as hyperbole at all. The difference between terrible sleep and great sleep is night and day for mood, productivity, all the good stuff. So that's intriguing. So a good story is change. You're reminding me of, I think, in Dan Harmon's Story Circle. I've actually worked through that with my kids a few times. And so, yes, and then the character returns changed
Yes.
at the end. And it's fun to watch Community because they are deliberately doing that with like every character in every episode. So change and relatable. So help us out. If the story's evolved, can you share with us a suboptimal prior version
Yes.
of a snippet of the story and then give us the improved version and tell us why is that better?
Exactly. Okay. So I used to be a professional athlete. I was a professional quarterback. And part of the story that I tell is I used to tell it where, so when I discovered the fact that I was mouth breathing, I basically read a book. It was a book by James Nestor called Breath. And in this book, he details this experiment. And part of the story is I talk about this experiment, reading this book and how it opens my mind. And I say, how have I been a professional high-level athlete my entire life, and my coaches never taught me this? And so then later I went, wait a minute. Being a professional athlete has nothing to do, like it doesn't matter to the story that I was a professional athlete. And nobody listening to that story is thinking, I was a professional athlete too, and my coaches never taught me that. Well, there's a small percentage of people that have ever gotten to the level of being a professional athlete that can relate to it. So then most people then might feel alienated and thinking like, well, I'm not a professional athlete, so I guess I don't really know how I could relate to that. But now, rather than say I was a professional athlete, I just say, look, I was an athlete my whole life. I played football, I played sports growing up, and my coaches didn't teach me that. How many people played sports growing up and were athletes? Almost everybody did in some capacity. So that's way more relatable that people now can connect and go, they can lean in and go, oh yeah, I was an athlete too. Yeah, and my coaches never taught me that. Wow. Huh. This is crazy. So that's a really good example of something that I've adapted.
Yeah, it's funny and not to critique your story live here, Alex, but you know, I guess I have the hubris to do it. It's like I'm thinking that what you're saying is perfect because like I was a professional athlete. It's like, okay, well, we're not vibing with that. But what's interesting is we had Anjali Sharma on the show recently talking about the storytelling principle just like this. It's like you think you want to have it dramatically, awesomely, whoa, remarkable. But you don't want to be remarkable, you want to be relatable. Because it is remarkable that you were a professional athlete, and it is all the more remarkable. Shouldn't someone have known with all the recovery information that's so important for high performance? So that makes it more remarkable, but less relatable. And so I'm intrigued as someone who didn't play very many sports. It just that the notion that I'm relating to most about is it's like, hey, shouldn't someone have told me? I almost feel betrayed or shocked, disappointed. Like, it's like, shouldn't someone have told me you can enable shortcut keys in Gmail? Everyone knows I love productivity and I use Gmail. Or shouldn't someone have told me that it was Severance is an amazing TV show? So yeah, that I like that a lot in terms of we're going to drop some of the most amazing wow factor pieces in pursuit of more relatability.
I've got another one too. This is another one that I used. Okay, so the other part of the story that I used to really lean in on was I mentioned it earlier that my wife and I, we had gotten separated and then we divorced. Okay, and we actually got back together. So when I launched the brand, we have 2 kids. So I used to tell that part of the story, and I used to say that 6 years ago I had it all. And then I lost everything. And my wife and I went through divorce. And then at the end of the story, after building this thing, then my wife and I got back together. And then I'm like, actually, you know what? How relatable? Like divorce is relatable to 50% of the population. Yes. But still, you're still alienating 50% of the people who haven't gone through a divorce. And to boot, getting back together, like How many people get a divorce and then get back together with their partner? That almost never happens. So then I'm like, as amazing as it is, and as amazing as the reactions I get from people when they hear that story, they're like, oh my God, that's wild. It is not relatable at all to anybody because it just doesn't happen. So now I've started really kind of dropping those points and leaning more in on the idea that here's what is relatable about that. The fact that I snored so bad that it pushed my wife into the other bedroom and we slept in separate bedrooms. It killed the relationship. It hurt us, put a wedge between us. And then you know what? I discovered mouth taping. Now I don't snore anymore. I feel amazing. And my wife and I now sleep in the same bed again. That's a more relatable story. And it's all true. I just left out the most amazing parts of it that actually don't make the story better. Right?
Yeah, it's interesting in that it's now, what's juicy about this is, unlike the first example, it's sort of like nothing feels lost in terms of like, okay, we don't know as much about how awesome you were as an athlete, Alex. Okay. So, but that's okay. But here it almost does feel like something is lost because it's like, it almost makes the hostage mouth tape less of a hero. It's like it saved a dead marriage. Sounds more awesome than what you've described. And yet, so now it's interesting. Now I feel like we have a real juicy trade-off here between the relatability of the story and the amount of heroic impact the product can make. How do you chew through that one?
I think you could argue that while heroic it is, like, you know, I'm a phoenix rising from the ashes, right?
Yeah.
Like Ryan Gosling says in La La Land. Love that movie. I think that, again, I would lean more on, I think there's a hero's journey, though, that I can tell. The true story of this hero's journey of that bedroom tale that every man and wife, more men and women are going through that story, that hero's journey that I can help them become the hero of their story.
Oh, gotcha.
So I think that's way more impactful.
Yeah, I hear you, because we might have less of an emotional spike, but we have a broader set of folks getting into it. And those broader sets may actually have more of an emotional vibe.
And here's also the risk. And because I've seen a ton of it, I've gotten a ton of feedback and responses over the years, you know, the past couple of years here. The story sounds so unbelievable that people think it's fake. Like, oh, it's so fake. No way that happened. I mean, it happened. It's true. And I can understand why it sounds fake, but it's so wild that it sounds fake. And so that's the risk of it, is that, again, now I'm alienating because of the craziness of the story. Now I'm alienating, again, too many people that I don't need to alienate, that I could just tell a much more relatable story that still has the impact and goes the distance.
Yeah. And this, I'm reminded, I think Ramit Sethi was talking about copywriting, and he said this product or offer of his really did have some epically transformational results for folks in terms of additional income or business revenue or whatever. But some of the results were so huge, it was beyond belief. So naturally, he wanted to say, look at the success of these students. But it's like, well, if I do that, I lose the credibility, even though it's true. So I'm going to have to back it down.
Yep, totally.
All right. Alex, so much good stuff here. Any final thoughts on storytelling, branding, persuasion?
I guess all I would say is, again, that everybody has so many stories that you can tell every single day that happen to you. You just have to pay attention to them. And they're there. And just understand the key to a story is change. That's the key. That's what makes merely reciting facts versus telling a compelling story is change.
Big thanks to Alex for sharing his wisdom with us. And big thanks to our sponsors. Check them out. One sponsor to check out is Earthbreeze. I recently saw a Netflix documentary that talks about all the plastic that we throw away and we try to recycle, but it doesn't really get recycled. So I've been trying to reduce my plastic, and the most wonderful way that I've been doing so has been skipping those gigantic laundry detergent bottles for Earth Breeze detergent sheets. Earth Breeze detergent comes in super convenient cardboard, plastic-free packaging, so it's much more eco-friendly than your normal detergent. And I love how portable and quick and easy they are, and I save a pretty reasonable amount of time skipping having to carefully pour and measure liquid detergent into the machine by just tossing in a quick and easy sheet in there. I personally like their scent-free version, so check out Earth Breeze for an easy way to get clean clothes without the plastic waste and get 40% off with your subscription at earthbreeze.com/awesome. That's earthbreeze.com/awesome. One sponsor to check out is Bamboo HR. I love owning my own business and I love humans, but I do not love doing compliancy, human resource kinds of things. HR is hard, but Bamboo HR is easy. Bamboo HR is a powerful yet flexible all-in-one HR solution for your growing business. Wrangling benefits, onboarding, performance, recruiting, reporting, vacation time, trainings, oh my, can take hours, but here, it takes mere minutes. Setting up a demo account is ridiculously easy. I didn't have to coordinate calendars to schedule a demo with a sales rep. No, I just created a sample account with sample data within 3 minutes of visiting their website so I could immediately behold its vast capabilities. The software is truly beautiful in its breadth and simplicity, so I'm not surprised 34,000 companies trust Bamboo HR with their HR needs. Reclaim your time and check out the free demo at bamboohr.com/free demo. See for yourself all that Bamboo HR can do and how truly affordable it can be too. That's bamboohr.com/free demo. One more time, bamboohr.com/free demo. Well, now, can you share with us a favorite quote, something you find inspiring?
It comes from my mom. And she taught me that you can do anything you want in life. You just have to be willing to work for it. And along with that, what I've added to it when I tell my kids is I always tell them that don't let anybody tell you you can't do it. If you want it, go get it.
Yeah, that's good. And a favorite book?
It is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
All right. And a favorite habit?
Sauna.
All right. And if folks want to learn more or get in touch, where would you point them?
Go to hostagetape.com. You can find it on all the socials, Hostage Tape, hostagetape.com. If you're going to try to buy it on Amazon, you can, but it's not the best place to get it. Just go to the website, hostagetape.com, and you can find your best deals. And don't let bad sleep hold you hostage anymore.
All right. And a final challenge or call to action for folks looking to be awesome at their jobs.
We're in an age of virtual, digital meetings worlds. I would challenge people to actually upgrade their equipment. Have a better camera. Have a better microphone. Makes so big of a difference. When you're on Zooms, you're on Google Meets all the time, and you can actually sound great and you look great. It makes all the difference in the world.
All right. Well, Alex, this is fun. I wish you much luck and good sleep.
Awesome. Thanks, Pete. I appreciate it.
I love Alex's perspective about how when you make a story all the more amazingly, remarkably cool, you definitely run the risk of making it less relatable. So check yourself, make sure that story is relatable and folks can see themselves in it and you're bringing the change, and good stuff can unfold. If you want to check out the show notes or the transcript or the links to ads that we referenced, please drop on by awesomeatyourjob.com/EP1041. Hope to catch you next time, and peace.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Nicole Byer, helping you make those rooms flyer. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild! Like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Ooh, fierce! This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.